Now, there is, I suspect, a very special Hitchens archive somewhere out there in some corner of YouTube, so let me know if you find it, will you?
Of upward phototropic movement. This is more like a bush that's growing sideways and so on. So the question is, suppose you could scan all this picture onto a tape, mixing the metaphor slightly, rewind that tape back to the beginning, play it again. There's absolutely no guarantee that it would come out the same way. In fact, the likelihood that it would come out the same way is almost nothing. Very sobering thought. And in the succession of evolutions that led to ourselves, there's one moment where there's a tiny creature called a Pichia gracilens. Gracilens simply meaning graceful, meaning bendy, which has the beginnings of a vertebrae system, of a spinal column. And that's the creature from which we got the idea of having a spine, and built upon it. If it had been left out of the mix, there's no Homo sapiens either, and it's sort of that big. And if the tape was replayed, it might not show up in the right time and place.
From which you conclude randomness and no plan.
Well, certainly, I would certainly say no plan. Or, because I can't quite say that, because no one can be that certain, no plan that isn't fantastically wasteful, capricious, arbitrary, and run by a designer who half the time doesn't know what he's doing, a mad scientist, in other words, and possibly a very nasty one. I mean, in other words, certainly you can't say it's a benign plan, no. No, you could not say this was a Heavenly Father plan. The implications of there being a planner of that plan are much more frightening than the implications of it being random.
We're running towards the end, but I want to quickly go to Stephen Jay Gould's own philosophy, because you mentioned it earlier. He was not an atheist, in spite of understanding this. He was an agnostic, who took the view that science and religion ask different questions about life. And he reached this conclusion: if we keep science and religion apart, neither one can oppress the other. But in fact, he wanted to, and he said this: I believe with all my heart in a respectful, even loving concordat between science and religion. Now, you admire him a lot.
Yeah, I do. I think he was one of the great educators of all time, and that's why it cost me a lot of pain to say why I disagree with him, and at such length. When he was a boy, he was a Marxist, and I think he overcompensated for not being one by trying to be more friendly towards religion than it deserves. And well, for the reasons I've already given, I don't think it's true that there can be a real coexistence. I think they're constantly trying to patrol the same frontier, and in the case of religion, to cross it in inappropriate ways. I mean, why should it be that in the United States, great country of science and technology and reason, there's this unceasing attempt to have nonsense taught in the schools with government money? They won't quit. They've been beaten back. They keep coming back for more. They try and smuggle it through customs. It used to be when they were strong enough, they would ban the teaching of Darwin. Until the 20s, they could do that in some places. Now they can't do that. The next demand was for equal time, sounds fair, for what they then called creation science. Nice try. That was exposed as a fraud. Then they said secular humanism is a religion. That shouldn't be taught either. The latest is intelligent design. I refuse even to call it that. I refuse to gratify them by using the term. It's creationism. And again, with the equal time demand, fairness, great American virtue. So after the biology class, we'll have the creation period. And then after chemistry, it'll be time, children, forget your alchemy books out. This with taxpayers' money. And then we'll be doing, well, you can see how the rest of it will go. After astronomy, we'll be doing our zodiacs. So, no, we're not having it. Now, why don't they say, I want to hear it from them, that it's possible to be a religious person and not preach garbage in school? Let them be the ones to propose this compromise, and then if I see a genuine hand being extended, I might take it. But I think Stephen was attributing much more goodwill to the other side than it really manifests.
I think this has to be a final question, really, Christopher. Your critics sort of argue there's no light and shade, no room for disagreement in a Christopher Hitchens argument. And I mean, do you accept?
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
I mean,
Do you accept actually that you are rather evangelical
No.
in your promotion of atheism?
no, because I have nothing to convert anyone to. See, that's, ladies and gentlemen, you should regret that giggle. I mean, you will. Tomorrow you'll be sorry. I have nothing, I ask yourself, have I tried to persuade you of any one point of view? No, I've said, beware of anyone who says that that you already have all the evidence you need. That's been my constant point. The only progress we've ever made, can ever hope to make, is by continual doubt, skepticism, the measurement of evidence against theory, practice against theory. That's not just, as I gave with the example of Father Lemaitre and the Pope, things cannot be, even if they're right, established as dogmas. I think I rest my case. Couldn't we end on a more controversial note?
We can, if you like.
Something bitchier, I mean.
I think I've got just the thing, actually, because, and it was Professor Richard Dawkins who did this, put this kind of slight upon atheism, I suspect. He wants you all to be called brights, I guess because you're brighter than the rest of us.
Yes. I really wish, I say in my book, he and Daniel Dennett, another great scientist and teacher, I really wish they hadn't done that, because I think it's wrong perhaps three ways. I mean, no one could say Father Lemaitre was stupid, for example. That's one thing. Two, if it was a test of intelligence, it would have the unpleasant suggestion that that's how